Welcome to the Spiritual Sweet Spot, a place where you can rejuvenate your soul. Hosted by author M.B. Mosley. This is a safe space for all. We are back, family. How are you doing? I pray that this podcast finds you and your family doing well. So Spirit was like, we did the whole recap, refresh, restart 2022. And Spirit was like, girl, let's get into the rituals with the family. And I said, you know what, Spirit, you're right. I have not done that. So for the month of January, let's do that, girl. And she was like, yes, girl, let's do it. So hope you all are ready. Hope you have your pen and paper. Or you can always pause and come back to this episode, download it, and come back to it. But I'm excited to share with you all some of these rituals, right? But family, I cannot get started until, you know me, I give out some disclaimers. So I am going to share with you all my rituals. Okay. And everyone does things differently. It's not a one size fits all. Okay. My whole motivation to the Decoding Dreams podcast, and as we speak of the Spiritual Sweet Spot, Motivational Mondays, and so forth, the whole entire premise for all of that as well is to bring things in baby steps so that we can help everyone on one accord, right? So if you are new to spirituality, this can usher you in easy and just gently as well. So I say all that to say we are talking about the basic fundamental rituals, and I'm going to share what I do because it's just easier for me to tell you what I do and why I do it. So sometimes the word ritual really terrifies some people. Just think of it as a habit. Okay. I mean, if you want, you could Google the definition. I think a ritual is something like where you just do something religiously, right? So anywhoosies, so let's get into it. So let's start off with talking about health rituals for today's sesh. Okay. So we're going to start off, got my list so I don't miss anything. Once again, these are rituals that I do. These are 101 rituals, basic, rudimentary, elementary, whatever mentary you want to say, but basic 101. And as you grow in your spirituality, and or if you're advanced, or whatever it is you put on, let's say as you grow, because this is 101. As you grow, as you grow and you learn more about your spiritual journey, you're able to add more things either to your ritual in confidence and all that wonderful, amazing stuff. So let's start off with the very, very popular one, the very common and popular one. We're going to start off with, you guessed it, sage. So there's so many sage. Well, let's start off by saying this. What is sage? Sage is an herb. Sage is an herb, as basil is an herb. Sage is an herb. It's a dried herb from our wonderful Mother Earth. So that is the best part about that. Okay. And so we're going to start off with the most common sage, or the most common. Yeah, most common we could say. Sage is common, but there are different types of sage. So let's start off with the most common. And this is a sage that I use, which is your white sage. Okay. And my purposes for using the white sage is typically for cleansing the house, for healing, and or if I am meditating. So when I cleanse the house, I crack open the windows with white sage. I light the sage stick. The best practice, okay, because I really want to do 101 so we all are on the same page. Candle work is another facet, but let's just keep it basic, right? Get a regular, smegular white candle, small candle. Just get a regular white one. And so I prefer to light my sage, my herbs with the candle, only because it burns onto it better. And that way you want to avoid, if you light your sage with a lighter, you don't want to blow. You don't want to use your mouth to blow to light the whole sage. You want a natural flame. Okay, a nice red cherry flame, and then let the smoke come out of that white sage. So for my cleansing purposes, we don't get traffic in our home. We don't. So every 3 months, I cleanse the house with white sage, crack the windows every 3 months. And sometimes you could time it for seasonal change if you don't get a lot of traffic in your house. And so once you get that cherry going, you get that smoke going on your white sage with the cleansing, you crack the windows because you want to cleanse the old energy out, and you want to cleanse the house. You don't want it to hang out in your house like, hey, so crack the windows open and do your cleansing. Now, on this part of cleansing with the white sage, you could say whatever you want. If you want to say your affirmations as you go through your house, if you want to bless your house, however you want to bless your house, you can, whatever works for you. This is the beauty part of the spiritual journey and incorporating rituals. It's not a one size fits all. It's all about your spiritual journey. So personally, since we're talking about my rituals, what I do as I cleanse, I like to bless our house. I like to invoke love. I like to invoke abundance. I like to do mantras of gratitude, just walking through the house, and just mantras of health in the house. Okay, that's along those lines there. And so now we talk about the healing components. I like to tread lightly. This is a global podcast, right? We want to be culturally in tune. And once again, I feel comfortable talking about my rituals. Now, listen, I am not a doctor. Okay. So if your doctor has you doing what you have to do, you listen to your doctor, you listen to your healthcare professionals. This is just my way of doing things with sage. So don't go out there and say, she said, use your intuition and wisdom. Okay. And so for the healing part, if I'm not feeling too well physically, I take a blanket. Okay. I have a spiritual blanket. And in the dark, mainly in my room on the floor, Indian style, cross my legs, cover myself, blaze up my sage with my candle, and I inhale the fumes from the sage. Okay. Now, I don't inhale for a long time. That's what I said. Don't listen. If you have health complications, and all this other stuff, don't do that. Yeah. Tap into spirit. These are things that are spiritual, folks. I cannot express this enough. Tap into spirit. Spirit will always guide you, give you intuition, will help you along the path on how to go about and what mantras to say and how to conduct yourself as it performs to these rituals. And so that's what I do for my healing purposes. And listen, once again, I'm not a doctor. If you're on medications, consult your healthcare professionals and do what your healthcare professionals tell you. Okay. This is not a substitute. All right. For whatever regimen your healthcare professionals have for you. White sage. So when I'm in meditation, with the white sage, what I like to do for myself is to also wash myself every morning with it. Now, wash my face, I should say, with it. And I've lost people in the past when I tell them about washing it. So, because washing it feels like water and soap. So what I do is I will blaze up my sage with the candle, get the cherry and the thick smoke going, crack the window. I usually do this in my office because this is my space that, my creative mojo space. And so I crack the window. And what I do with it, and once it's lit, I have my sage plate where I lay it down so that the smoke is within proximity and close to me. I use my hands to cup the smoke towards my face and just do the washing gestures, cleansing myself. I take the smoke, wash over my hair, wash over my body, rub it over just the smoke. So it's kind of like it's in the sage tray there that I have, and I just use the smoke to do the washing emotions with the smoke itself. And then soon right after that, I commence to meditation with that just running in the background. It's important to note that I'm going to go over the sage that I use, but it's important to note that it doesn't matter what sage you end up picking, whether it's blue sage, desert sage, whatever sage you end up picking. The purpose of sage itself as an herb is of the ancient practice for mainly cleansing. That's the bottom line, for mainly cleansing and healing. That's the bottom line. So it doesn't matter what sage you end up gravitating to. I would like to put that mention in there. So now the other sage that I use is the black sage. I use black sage just as I would the white sage. I use it in my bedroom, in my area of sleeping. So if I'm not having any dreams coming through, let's say I've gone 2 days or so and I haven't had any contact with the spiritual dream realm for some reason, or if it's been real vivid, or I mean not vivid, but if it's been real blurry, because I get dreams from the spiritual dream realm every time I go to sleep. So if I want to invoke dreams from the spiritual dream realm, I want to tap into the spiritual dream realm, I fog out my bedroom with black sage. Okay, I fog it out. I do my mantra. There's so many, you blessed mantra, your affirmations, whatever it is, you could just write down quick things on index cards, whatever works for you. What I do when I invoke the spirit of dreams and visions in my room with black sage is just ushering in on an atmosphere of having my dreams and visions stay with me. Okay, so that's what I use black sage folks, for. As it pertains, once again, I'm going to keep saying that there's all types of sage sticks out there. Smudging sage, gravitate to what spirit is pulling you towards. Okay, there's all types: white sage, blue sage, desert sage, lavender sage, you name it. Gravitate to what will work for you and your ritual in your home. Once again, bottom line, it's for cleansing, right? For cleansing all things spiritual, cleansing and healing your space. Bringing out the old, preparing your spaces for the new, fresh, renewed energies. As long as you're dealing with energies, it might be something you might want to consider in life. And so, folks, now as it pertains to sage, when I purchase things for my spiritual practices, I like to be careful where I get them, because what happens is things become such a phenomena, and you want to make sure. I like 100% sage, so I want to make sure wherever I go and purchase it, you read the fine details, how they some websites have how they harvest their sage and how they prepare their sage. And the more details for me personally, the better. It makes me feel comfortable. I just don't want to buy knockoff sage and sit up here and blow fumes and probably, do the opposite of what you're trying to do. But so that's my sage health ritual. All right. So let's move along. I wrote a little list here for you all beautiful people. Alrighty, let's talk about my Palo Santo. Palo Santo. So Palo Santo, what is Palo Santo? So Palo Santo is their wood sticks. Wood sticks is known, it's been said that they are wood sticks that come from sacred trees. And, some will say from the holy wood, but it's a wood stick. Okay, so the origins of Palo Santo has been said to come from the holy trees or holy wood. But these are sticks that have been prepared spiritually for different traditional healing or spiritual ceremonies. Now, when it comes to Palo Santo for me, I like to use Palo Santo for creativity, right? So I'll do the sage and meditation, and it's my daily go-to, not daily, excuse me, but it's my go-to, I should say, like right before I sit down to record a podcast, I Palo Santo over here to invoke the creative part, the inspiration, and just to bring in a deeper connection to the divine source for me. And low-key, I like how Palo Santo smells. You know, the smoke of the Palo Santo. And so Palo Santo, also the reason why I use Palo Santo, so what I use Palo Santo when I'm leaving the house. I use it when I'm leaving the house or when I'm sitting here to do a podcast. And so I use Palo Santo to put a protection. It's almost like an energetic protection around me, right? So to as if to almost say or to describe that the negative energy will bounce off of that circle. So right before I leave the house, you know, I will light up my Palo Santo stick in my hand. I'm right-handed, and once again, same concepts on things that burn. Do not blow into the Palo Santo. Light it up. I light my Palo Santo and sage with a candle. And so candles have different meanings, different colors, but we say it in this 101, we're just going to use our basic white candle. That will do. And so once I get the cherry and the smoke going for the Palo Santo with the stick, I just kind of wand it up from the bottom of my feet all the way up, like kind of the motion of scooching, like flickering, as if you're almost flickering, you know, any negative energy that will try to come to you to bounce away and kind of go around and all that good stuff. So I use it as a protection, especially when I'm leaving the house. A little fun fact about, because I like the way Palo Santo smells. So I will use, this is not doctor recommended. I will use right before I sit down for the podcast, when Spirit has given me a word and I sit down to do the podcast, when I light the Palo Santo red cherry and the smoke, and I, you know, want it all around me, drape it all around me, I like to just kind of rub it around real close to my nose. I love the way the Palo Santo, and take a quick inhale, and then it's not smoking it, but just, you know, and then just, you know, that's part of my ritual. So I almost like to inhale that Palo Santo smoke because it relaxes me. And it also, I've noticed when I meant to say that with the sage part, when I do the sage work as well, the sage smoke, something about it is so relaxing and calming as well. There we have it. So we got I told you about my sage cleansings and healings and what I use my different sages for within the house. And then the Palo Santo is definitely a preparation for me to go if I'm leaving the house. Nobody wants that evil all up on them. Just teasing. But, you know, so it's an energetic protection. And with the Palo Santo, you don't have to have the window up or down, right? It's a film of protection. And then like I said, for my creation here with the podcast, different from my sage, if I am going to write or if I'm going to connect with source, then I will resort to that sage as also well. I forgot to mention, because I neglected to mention it, because my husband and I, we don't have traffic in our house like that, in and out. And so if you're a person that does have, you know, people coming in and out, once again, like I said, you're going to create your own cleansing, your own spiritual cleansing ritual, however you see fit for yourself. But with the white sage, as you use it to cleanse your house, if you want to cleanse the house after, you know, traffic has come through your house, you can do that. I've always been funny acting about, air quotes, funny acting about just, you know, different folks, different energy levels. So you can always feel free to do that as well. And listen, I know probably they're your loved ones, family members, and so forth, and perhaps it's okay. That's fine. But you can definitely sage and or cleanse your home however you see fit. Okay. Also, if you're moving into a new space, feel free to utilize smudging through sage. You don't know what kind of energy was in there before you moved in there. Just saying. I know that this may sound a little bit too much. It's baby steps. Take one, pick one, do one, reach one, each one, teach one. Do whatever you want. Start off small. Don't overwhelm yourself. When all these things came together for me in life on the spiritual journey, I didn't start off by saging it out and just, and Palo Santoing it out and all this, the next things we're going to discuss. I literally started with just the white sage. And the more I understood about white sage and its purpose, and the more I practiced that ritual, then I graduated to the next shade of the sage bunch there, and then the next and the next, and then incorporated Palo Santo and the rest. Things just slowly built up. So now let's talk about I think all of it is my favorite, but let's talk about my faves of all favorites. Okay, which is the Florida water. Now, Florida water is in its layman term. Florida water is cologne. Okay. It is cologne, but it's a form of cologne that has been used in the spiritual realm for years. I think the inception of this cologne has been around since like the 1800s, but it has a background, right? You could, if you really wanted to get into it, you could make your own Florida water and so forth. But why it's one of my favorites, all favorites, it's cologne, but it has this amazing, almost like, I don't know, angelic, citrusy light smell. It's not too strong. It's not too weak. It's just refreshing. It is a refreshing scent. So Florida water, once again, according to your spiritual journey, is used for so many different things. I use Florida water to anoint myself. That's what I use my Florida water for. So you can dilute, you can figure out how you want to use it. So for some people, maybe strong, but for me, it's not. I like it just as it is. So what I do with my Florida water is I put it in a little spray bottle of almost like a spritzer. And I don't dilute mine. Some people do. You can put a little bit of spring water in it as well. But I use just my Florida water as is. I put it in a little spritzer. I'm obsessed with Florida water. And then I have a big cleaning bottle with a spray cap on it. And I have Florida water in there. So for my personal little spritzer bottle, it's on my altar. And so what I do when I reverence my altar and my daily mantras and look at my manifested scripting at my altar and look at my prayer cards, before I do all of that, I should say, I take my personal Florida water spritzer, I spritz my hands, my palms, rub it in my palms all around. And then what I do is when I take a shower, I should have started from the first point where I use Florida water. But once I take a shower, before I put on lotions or anything like that, I pull out a fine mist from my personal Florida water spritzer onto my skin. Once again, if your skin is sensitive and all this other stuff, do what you got to do. And these are my personal rituals, right? You don't have to do it exactly like this. This is me and my obsession to Florida water. And so I spritz some on my skin, on my body, and once fully clothed, lotion, and all this other stuff, when I approach my altar for my morning prayers and so forth, I then put the Florida water on my palms of my hand and rub the palms of my hands, and then commence with my rituals on my altar, my daily readings of the prayers that I would have written in my little prayer box and so forth, and go over my affirmations and my mantras go over my scripting in my manifested book, and then conclude with that. Now, with the Florida water that I have in a bigger cleaning bottle, what I do with that is I use it for my house. So I will occasionally spritz the drapes of my house, the furniture of my house, just like you would probably with like a Febreze bottle and so forth, occasionally. And then what I do with it is every night before we go to sleep, I pull back the covers, the sheets, and spritz in my bed. Once again, this is what I do. These are my rituals. You find what works for you. I think the point is just knowing what these things are for, or how to incorporate these things to your rituals. Okay, so like I said, it's used for all kinds of things, warding away evil as well, cleansing, self-love rituals, and so forth. But for me, really, is everything that I do is to block, draw away, keep away negative energies. That's really the basis for my cleansings and my rituals. Okay, and also just to get to invoke divine providence, and to invoke positive flow energy in my space. Really, that's what that is for. And so let's see. Now, taking into consideration Florida water, if you purchase Florida water, everything you purchase, research, figure it out. Make sure you're getting the right product. But understand something about Florida water. It's a cologne, so it's highly flammable. I don't use my Florida water if I'm dealing with candle work or anything like that. Okay? Sis has no time to burn up and fry. So just understand that it's highly flammable. Let me see, what else do I do? Florida water. All right. I spoke of an altar. Everyone has different names for it. My altar consists of having the ancient book of wisdom. I love the stories that are in there. Of course, it has, have like $1 million note on there. This is from years ago. I had a patient that gave it, the man opened up his wallet and gave me $1 million bill. So I have that. I thought it was always cool. And then I have, I'm looking at it. I have my Ankh on there. Then I have my candles there. I don't light those candles when I'm dealing with my Florida water. They're just there. And then I have a little metal container with little prayer cards in there. And then I have my book that I use for scripting my things that I want to manifest. So I would say 2021 ended just as well as I needed it. Crossed out those things that came to fruition. So let's move on. Once again, all of this is spiritual work, is energy work, right? Set your intentions, set them pure. I'm not telling you how to live your spiritual journey, but in as far as I handle all these things that I use for my rituals, I have not a single aorta on using it for harvesting dark energy or harvesting it for anything other than just pure, clean, and preserved energy for myself and protection and so forth. I think it's important for you to also understand that, because we're doing Ritual 101. So I think it's important for you to understand the purposes for these tools and what they're used for, right? All right. And once again, don't get overwhelmed with just going through it. You could just pick Florida water and be fine with it, because at the base of it all, if you pick, like, let's say Florida water, hey, cleansing, because it's been used to cleanse oneself from evil. You could spray it on your bed. You could spray it in your house for protection from negative energy. So if that's the route you go, that's the route you go. If you don't want sage, if you don't want Palo Santo, or if you just want sage, you could do that. Or if you don't just Palo Santo, you can use the same Palo Santo stick to take the smoke around your house, your living quarters, and so forth, and do the same exact thing. This is all a matter of energy cleansing and purifying. Remember that, but just know exactly how it works. All right. So let us continue. Just, like I said, these are accumulations to my rituals over the years. Okay. And I think the buck really stops, with all this, because it's what I'm just used to doing. I have shared with you my cleansing ritual processes, or we could call them my daily ritual processes. So remember, it's limitless, and incorporate what works for yourself, and do research on it. See, according to your spiritual journey, what it is that you do need to incorporate, to that spiritual journey. And understand that everything I've shared with you in this podcast, the reason why I carry on this, because I'm always like one of those people who like, what is the why, right? So the why for the tools that I've shared with you for myself is I do a cleansing of my energy, my space, our shared space with my husband and I, just to always renew the energy, to always to cleanse out the negative energy, to keep my spirit healthy, to keep the inner works of my soul healthy, and to always create a cleansed new space, refreshed space for divine providence, for conscientious clarity, and just to keep positive energy around me so that I could keep my frequency vibrating higher, right? And also for protection. So these are tools to help you on your spiritual journey to guard your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. So the next part that I'm excited to talk about, which is on the next podcast for next Saturday, and it's going to be talking about chakras. I wanted to talk about this for the longest time, but I've been asking Spirit how to bring this in, because as we build our spiritual journey, like I said, I like to keep it 101. And as we do that, and I know this is a global podcast, so 101 guys can refer to saying basic. So I was asking Spirit how to do that, and Spirit enlightened me, and I'm really excited. And I'm going to talk about chakras as I incorporate the chakra healing process of my emotional, spiritual, mental space as it pertains to chakras and then crystals. We have talked about this toolbox here with these amazing tools, right? For cleansing. You're cleansing your space. You're cleansing you internally, your soul, your spirit internally. And so now let's talk about the other aspects of now the next topic is going to be lifestyle rituals. We did cleansing rituals. Now we're going to do lifestyle rituals. All right, guys. So I'm going to see you on the next podcast. Once again, remember, this is all things spiritually related. I love you guys so much. Stay blessed. Also, if you're listening to us from any other platform than the podcast platform, please subscribe and join the podcast on your favorite podcast app. You can search for Decoding Dreams Podcast with Memory. Do you keep getting a reoccurring dream and are trying to figure out why you keep dreaming of the same dream? Or perhaps are you dreaming of teeth falling out? Or have you ever had a dream where you were naked, and perhaps even naked in public? OMG, how embarrassing. Or perhaps you don't remember your dreams when you wake up. Well, check it out. Join us at the Dream Decoding Podcast, where I teach you on how to train yourself to have a memory recall, and or I teach you on how to understand your dreams as it pertains to your current waking life. The importance of understanding the symbols and messages that we get in our dream realm is because sometimes these messages are coming to give us a good word and or to help us along the path. So don't miss out. Join us at the Dream Decoding Podcast with your host, Memory.